Despite being one of the best cartoon shows in the world, Bluey has its fair share of animation errors. In this video, we'll share all the mistakes we've found in Bluey so far. Like in the episode Dirt, Judo desperately wants to play in the dirt with Bluey and Bingo, but she is not supposed to get herself dirty. Later in the episode, we can see Judo looking sad and sitting on the stairs in front of her house. Now look carefully. Right when Wendy goes to sit next to Judo to console her, Wendy's tail phases right through the stairs. It happens for a millisecond, but our sharp eye managed to catch it. In the episode Asparagus, the healers are playing a game of pretend where Bluey has a magic asparagus which can turn anyone into an animal. And in one of the scenes, Bluey turns Bandit into a peacock. When Bandit turns around to flaunt his peacock tail at Chili and Bingo, the black patch of fur that is usually on his back appears on his chest for a split second. As we know by now, Bandit is the victim of hair-related animation errors. And in the episode Fairies, he suffers from hair loss once again. Here the healers are playing a game of pretend where Bandit taunts the fairies to do their worst. As a result, Bingo is now frozen with her fingers up her nose. Bluey puts the blame solely on Bandit, and to fix his mistake, Bandit proceeds to do an Irish jig around the letterbox. Now look carefully. Right after he carries Bingo, the fur above his eyes disappears. And that's not all. As he's dancing while holding Bingo, Bingo clips Bandit's nose. We must say, the animators need to give Bandit a break from these errors. Going back to the episode Bob Bilby. It's Bingo's turn to bring the Bob Bilby puppet home from kindy and record their weekend together. Bob's previous adventures have all been very exciting, so Bingo is keen to make their time just as memorable. Later in the episode, Chili takes a photo of Bingo using the front camera of her phone. But the issue is, when she takes the picture, the flash of back camera lights up. This is basically a logical error, because Chili took the photo with her front camera, not the back. And that's not all. In one of the scenes where Bingo and Chili go out on a bike ride, we can notice that Bingo's dark orange fur is missing on her face. Seriously, animators really seem to have a hard time with animating the fur. We all know that the healers love dancing, which was even more evident in the episode Dance Mode. In the episode, Bluey suggests a game called Dance Mode, which is having people dance on command. Later in the episode, the healers go to a post office. As Bandit is being served at the counter, Chili activates the dance mode on Bandit. But Bandit isn't the only one who dances. If we look at the background, we can notice this character holding an envelope. And just as Bandit starts dancing, the envelope also moves forward and backward. Maybe the envelope also wanted to dance. In the episode Burger Shop, we see Bandit trying to convince the girls to leave the bathtub, but they end up convincing him to join and play with them a little longer. When Chili threatens to get into the tub to remove everything from it, something curious happens. Bandit's head changes color. As everyone knows, he is blue, just like Bluey, who takes after him. But both of them have a slightly darker shade of blue on their heads. And Bandit's head is entirely blue. But if you pause the scene at the right moment, you'll see that his head quickly changes from half dark to half light blue. It happened for a split second, but our sharp eye managed to catch it. As we said earlier, if there's one character that frequently appears in these animation error lists, it's Bandit. It seems like the animators enjoy poking fun at poor Bandit. Once again, he's dealing with some hair issues, so to speak. This time, it seems like the animation team forgot to put a piece of fur under Bandit's right eye. But this happens very quickly, and immediately after, he's back to normal. I think it's better for Bandit to seek a fur specialist to address this little issue, because it seems like his hair has a mind of its own. We know that creating an animated show as good as Bluey takes a lot of work, and we appreciate all the animators who work hard to deliver consistently excellent animations. Of course, errors happen because we all make mistakes, and we're also thankful for these tiny errors, because it makes watching Bluey even more fun. Now let's look at one of my favorite episodes, Cricket. Another kind of supernatural thing happens in this episode. After Rusty had already destroyed the game by hitting all of Bandit's stripes and Lucky's dad's throws, when Chili calls everyone for snack time, note that behind her is Chloe's mom. So far so good. Nothing out of the ordinary, but take a look at the bottom of the bench she's sitting on. Note that her legs are in one place while she's in another. I don't think it is possible to sit like this. In the episode Smoochy Kiss, Bluey and Bingo don't want Chili to have a smoochy kiss with Bandit. So they pretend to be Bandit's bodyguards, keeping him safe from Chili. Later in the episode, we can see them entering the laundry room. Now look carefully. If we zoom onto the taps on the laundry tub, the tap can be seen with the hot on the left and cold on the right. Also, the hot one facing the bathroom door. But the mistake is, when Bandit comes out of the bathroom, the taps have now switched positions. Now the hot is on the right and cold is on the left. The tap seems to have a mind of its own. In the episode Tradies, Chili hires Chippy and Sparky to build a fish pond in the backyard. When they start digging up the pond, we can notice a tree behind them, and also on the right side of the tree, there's a house. There's a fair bit of distance between the tree and the house, but later in the episode, when Chippy and Sparky finish digging up the pond, we can now notice that the tree and house are much closer together. But earlier, there was quite a bit of distance between the two. In the episode Zoo, Bluey creates a zoo in her backyard that features all sorts of amazing creatures, including the big blue gorilla, which kind of looks like Bandit. At the end part of the episode, we can see Bingo on her bed, looking all sad because the big blue gorilla was separated from her. And right at this moment, if we zoom in at the foot of Bingo's bed, we can see there's lowercase b carved on it. But the mistake is, seconds later when Chili enters the room to console Bingo, the lowercase b has now changed to uppercase B. Seriously, this seems more of magic than an error. As we all have noticed, the healer's house is filled with many pictures and photographs on practically every wall. But in one episode, we noticed a small detail related to the photo frame. The girls decide to play hotel, and they are at the top of the stairs leading to the first floor. And when they pick up the laundry basket, we see that right above their head, slightly to the side, there's a picture of a ball on a beach. But in the next scene, we see something completely different. Instead of the beach picture, there's a photo that looks like it's of Bluey. And in case you're thinking that maybe the beach picture was supposed to be below, we see that right below the picture of Bluey, there's actually a green background, indicating that it's neither sand nor seawater. This one almost went unnoticed. In the episode Yoga Ball, we found a really weird mistake. Here, the healers are playing an Indiana Jones-style game, where Bandit rolls the ball. Meanwhile, Bluey and Bingo need to run and then jump into a room to avoid being run over by the ball. We can see that the girls always jump into the same room, which has orange furniture and a red carpet. They play this game over and over again until Bingo gets tired and can't jump. In one of the scenes, we can notice that when Bluey jumps, Bingo can't and continues running a bit more. Then we pass by the entrance of the same room, and Bingo continues running until the ball catches up with her. When that happens, even though she had been running, she is now closer to the door of the room than before. This doesn't make much sense since she had already run past it before, so this is definitely a continuity error. In the episode Obstacle Course, Chili sets up a backyard obstacle course just for fun, but Bandit wants to race. So Bluey and Bingo are determined to win by any means necessary. When Chili is training Bluey to beat Bandit, we see that one of the stages is climbing the ladder and touching the tree trunk. Notice that when Bluey reaches the ladder, there is no shadow underneath, but when she climbs it, the shadow appears, indicating that it is Bluey's shadow. But the mistake is, right when Bluey climbs down from the ladder, if we look down, we can see that her shadow remains there, almost as if it has a life of its own. Moreover, at this moment, Bluey ends up having two shadows simultaneously. In the episode Puppets, Bluey and Bingo are having fun playing with a puppet unicorse. In one of the scenes, when the unicorse sees Chili, it falls in love with her and wants to go on a date with her. And right when the unicorse is moving towards Chili, its beard detaches from its chin. If we slow down the scene, we can see the unicorse's beard detaching from its chin. We had to replay this scene multiple times to catch this error. The unicorse was so stunned by Chili that even its beard came of its chin. In the episode Hotel, when Bluey is showing Bandit the available rooms for him to sleep in, notice that they pass door number 1, and next to it, there is a picture of Bandit and Chili when they were traveling. Then they continue the tour around the house hotel and reach door number 6, which is actually the bathroom. And on it, we can see the same picture a second time. Either the healer family has the same picture in several different places, or the animators simply forgot to put different pictures. In the episode Seesaw, when Bluey and Bingo are playing, we can see that like any seesaw, each person sitting on each side has a handle to hold on to. But when Bandit joins in to teach the kids a lesson, we see Bluey sliding down the seesaw until she bumps into Bandit's back. The question is, how is it possible for Bluey to do this? Because there should be a handle in the way. Clearly the handle should be between Bluey and Bandit at this moment, but it simply disappeared. When Bluey and Bingo are on the opposite side to Bandit, we can see that the handle has disappeared. But that's not all. When Chloe appears and tries to help the girls, we see that at this moment the handle reappears. It's clearly a logical error. In the episode Library, where Muffin goes to play at the healer's house, we notice some weird errors. When Librarian Bluey shows the place to Muffin, we see Bingo sitting there quietly reading her book. We can also notice that she's sitting on a beanbag, but right when the girls pretend to take a picture of Muffin to make the registration, at this moment, if you look closely at the background, you will notice that both Bingo and the beanbag simply vanished. You might think that Bingo left, but that's not the case, as we can see she was there the whole time. We can clearly see that Bingo and the beanbag are on top of the carpet, and in the picture frame, we can also notice the entire carpet in the background, but we can't see either Bingo or the beanbag. In the same episode, we also noticed some more mistakes. When Bluey tells Muffin that she is not playing correctly, we see Muffin sitting on the same beanbag that Bingo was on before, only with several books around her. Bluey and Bingo then go to the kitchen to complain. Then Stripe goes to the living room to talk to Muffin. But the issue is, out of nowhere, Muffin is now sitting on the Cat Squad tricycle, and the beanbag has disappeared. Moreover, if we compare the two scenes, we will notice that the books are arranged in a completely different way from before. This is a really strange error. Now this next error is really interesting. In the episode Bedroom, Bluey is excited to get her own room. Bluey and Bingo spend the entire day shifting rooms. And later in the episode, when it's finally time to sleep, we can notice Bluey lying on her bed. And on her bedside, we can notice a small shelf, and on top of the shelf, there's a lamp. So far, so good. But moments later, when the camera angle switches, we can see another shelf beside the original one. But earlier, we clearly saw there was only one shelf. Where did it come from? It's really a weird mistake, but that's not all. Later in the episode, we see Bluey and Bingo transporting some books onto Bluey's room. And again, we get another view of Bluey's room. And if we look at her bedside, there's only one shelf. But the interesting part is, in the end part of the episode, we can notice that the bookshelf that magically appeared out of nowhere is being set up by Chili. And also, we can see the view from same camera angle as before. And here we see two bookshelves. I think earlier, the animators accidentally used the footage that was supposed to be used in the end part of the episode. It's so interesting, isn't it? In the episode Pirate, we noticed a really interesting error that probably no one has ever seen. When Bluey and Bingo are holding the rope of the net where they play pirate, we see that on one side of Bluey's belly, two of her purple spots appear, and on the other side, her third spot appears. You are probably thinking that's normal. After all, Bluey has 3 spots on her back. Well, that's true, but if these 3 spots are so close together, how can they all be appearing at the same time and on different sides of Bluey's belly? That's physically impossible. And that's not all. Another small error we managed to notice is also in this episode. During the pirate game, Bandit, who was the blue whale, gets a bit embarrassed when a dad and another pup arrive at the park to play on the swing and stops making whale noises. Moments later, when Missy gets the courage and decides to join the game, we see that everything behind Bandit disappears, including the dad with his pup and even the swing. Did the blue whale swallow them? One of the episodes that definitely made me feel sorry for Bandit is the one where, as a good father, he tries to make a duck-shaped cake, but he fails miserably. But the error isn't there. When Bandit suggests to Bluey that he will give her golden star stickers for each toy she saves, which is a good deal, notice that the sticker sheet is complete, and when he arrives in the kitchen right after, the sheet has 1 less star. So far, we can't say it's a mistake, since he could have put a sticker on the way from the living room to the kitchen at some point. But then when he returns to the living room to talk to Bluey and is holding the bowl where he's making the cake batter, we see him holding the sticker sheet again, and it's complete once more. Now we can definitely say that it was an error. The episode Rug Island, Bluey and Bingo pretend that they are living on a desert island in the back garden, and they discover Bandit washed up on the beach. Bandit needs to embrace his inner kid if he wants to make Bingo and Bluey's Rug Island his home. In the end part of the episode, Bandit returns to his home from the pretend island. When Bandit is watching the girls from his house, you can notice that there's a tree in the background. But in the next scene, the tree disappears. Earlier, we could clearly see that there was a tree there. Even weirdly, after disappearing, moments later, the tree reappears. It seems like the tree is playing hide and seek. In the episode Shadowlands, we can see Bluey, Snickers, and Coco playing together in the park. And in one of the scenes where they are talking with each other, we can notice that Coco has 2 eyelashes on the side of her eye. But seconds later, there's only 1 eyelash. But again, moments later, she has 2. In the episode Cinema, when Bandit, Bluey, and Bingo are buying popcorn and tickets, we can see many movie posters on the cinema wall. Notice that the wall is red, but later in the episode, when they are watching the movie and step out to buy more popcorn, the wall has now turned purple, just like the rest of the cinema walls. And you might be thinking that they are in different part of the cinema, but that can't be possible, unless the cinema employee who served them initially has a twin brother who also works there. Another mistake also occurs in the same episode. Remember when we mentioned the movie posters hanging on the wall? In the first scene, when the wall was still red, there were 2 movie posters. One seems to resemble the Mario Brothers game with a canine version of Princess Peach, and the other seems to be a romantic movie. But in the second scene, when the wall has turned purple, there are 2 different movie posters, one featuring a little bee, and the other appearing to be a detective movie. And again, you might say that this proves that they are in different parts of the cinema. Well, pay attention to the next mistake, because it'll prove that both times they were in the same area. In both popcorn buying scenes, you can see the same fridge with green bottles on top and yellow bottles on the bottom, and the same sign that says $4 on the top shelf. The mistake is that in the second appearance of the fridge, there's also a $4 sign inside the fridge, but in the first appearance of the fridge at the cinema, you can see the external sign on top, but none inside. In the episode Facey Talk, Bluey, Bingo, Socks, and Muffin are having a video chat with each other. And also, while they are chatting, they are also drawing. But later in the episode, Stripe wants his phone back, but Muffin refuses to give it. And Stripe starts chasing Muffin, who is running with his phone. And all this is happening while the video call is still going. Later in the episode, the phone accidentally slips out of Muffin's hand and goes flying through the balcony. But wait, look here. When the phone goes flying into the air, the video call is still going on. But through the camera, we can see that the balcony is empty, meaning there's no one there. But looking through Muffin's camera, we can see that Muffin, Stripe, and Trixie are on the balcony. Now, this is a weird mistake. In the episode Phones, Bluey and Bingo are eager to play restaurants with Grandpa Mort, but they have a modern twist in mind. They're going to need an app to place their orders. When Grandpa Mort arrives for dinner, he's surprised to find out that the taxi fare has already been paid through the app. Inside, the kids introduce Grandad to their makeshift phone made of cardboard, explaining how to doot the app to order food without actually going to the restaurant. As Grandad joins in the fun under the makeshift tent, surrounded by various objects, you'll notice something if you pay close attention to the frames. You'll spot a green crocodile toy, mysteriously appearing and disappearing inside the box nearby. It seems like Bluey's animators have a really hard time with animating characters' fur, and this time, the error has to do with Bingo. In the episode Wagon Ride, Bandit brings Bluey and Bingo on a wagon ride to the park, and Bluey is keen to try the monkey bars. But Bluey's patience is tested when Bandit continues to stop and chat with other grown-ups. And when Bandit meets Chloe's mum, we can see that Bingo gets out of the wagon. But while she is getting off the wagon, the fur on her back glitches. The fur behind Bingo's head becomes the same color as the fur on her back. In the episode Bus, Bluey and Bingo are pretending to be Old Granny. And when they enter Bandit's imaginary bus, Bingo throws a few coins at Bandit. If we look closely, we can see that there are 7 coins on the ground, but moments later, there are only 6 coins. One of the coins disappeared. Unless Bingo sneakily took back 1 coin, this is an animation error. If you have watched Bluey since the beginning, then you would know that during the initial days of the series, Bluey and Bingo shared the same room with each of the sisters, having their own bed. One detail that always caught our attention on their beds is that each one has the letter B carved on the back, as it's the first letter of each of the 2 girls' names. On Bluey's bed, the B is uppercase as she's the older sister, and on Bingo's bed, the B is lowercase, even when they slept in separate rooms, and you can see the difference. But in the episode Weekend, something very weird happens when the parents put the girls to bed. Right at the end of the episode, we see that the B on Bingo's bed magically changes from a lowercase b to an uppercase B. In the episode The Beach, when Bluey is exploring the beach by herself, she meets a pelican. And when we zoom into the pelican, we see an animation error. If you look at the pelican's eyes, we see Bluey with her mouth open. And you may ask, why is that an error? Well, look, now it's closed. That's not normal. That's a mistake. This is a continuity error. Maybe it's not the visuals, but this is a continuity error. The mouth is open. You go to the next scene, mouth is closed. In our previous video, we mentioned a mistake in the episode Takeaway. And now let's go back to that episode again. When Bandit goes into the restaurant to check if the food is ready, the girls keep playing outside as if they're in their own restaurant. The mistake is that at a certain point, Bingo eats the spicy food that was left there by Bandit, and when Bandit returns outside, Bingo spits the burning food from her mouth onto poor Bandit's face. Note that when she does this, Bandit turns his face to the side, and we can see that both sides of his face get dirty. Then he wipes his face with his arm, and now his face is completely clean. But how is that possible, when between the two sides of his face, there's a snout preventing him from wiping both sides of his face? If you think about it, you'll realize it really doesn't make sense. In the episode Space, we learn that Mackenzie has a childhood trauma, thinking that his family, especially his mother, had left him at the playground. With help from Calypso, he overcomes this fear. But amid this super emotional story, we spot a mistake. It happens when Jack and Rusty take their friend back to his spaceship. Notice that everything is normal except for Mackenzie. His eyebrows have simply disappeared. If you watch the episode, you'll see that his eyebrows are always there, except in that scene. Now, this one's up for debate, but look at Chili. We see that Chili's legs and tail are completely visible through the floatable. And you might say that this isn't a mistake, and the floatable is transparent. But the issue is, the upper part of her body isn't visible. Only her legs and tail are visible. In the episode Seesaw, where we follow Bluey's attempt to defeat Bandit, who is heavier than all of them, and sits on the seesaw to tease them. When Bingo and Bluey realize they need help to defeat Bandit, they call their friends to sit on the seesaw. One of their friends is Coco. When Bluey calls Coco, you can clearly see that she has a pair of eyelashes in her eyes. The problem is that when they call Pom Pom to help, and we look back at Coco, she no longer has eyelashes. They simply disappeared. Do you know that Bluey is a magician? If you don't believe me, then look at this scene, because Bluey just phases through the chair. Take a look when we slow it down for you. Her eye just vanishes like a magician. I don't know what kind of magic this is, but Bluey just went straight through the chair. She simply phased through the chair. Now, this mistake can be found in the episode The Beach. The mistake here is actually the sunscreen on Bluey's face. Look at it. It's clipping through the eyes, the nose. If we slow down the scene and look at the sunscreen applied on her face, we can see that it is clipping through her eyes and nose. And talking about the episode The Beach, where we see the Healer family enjoying their day on the beach. Everyone is enjoying themselves and playing on the beach, and even Bandit is building a sandcastle while Bingo is burying Bluey in the sand and making a mermaid tail on her legs. It's at this moment that a small animation flaw occurs when Bluey leans backward. We have a top-down view of the two Healer girls, and you can notice that their eyebrows are blue. The problem is that in this episode, Bluey had her eyebrows painted yellow, probably because of the sunscreen that Chili applied to the girls. Now we have another case of a mysterious disappearance. In the episode Tickle Crabs, Bluey and Bingo are playing a fun game with Bandit. The girls pretend to be crabs tickling and chase Bandit into the kitchen, where he climbs onto a counter to escape the fake crabs and grabs fruit from a basket to throw at them. And at that very moment, we can clearly see that one of the fruits from the basket, probably an orange, simply disappears out of nowhere. So, for this animation error, it has to do with Chili. Look at her eyes. There is a mistake, and you know what it is. I mean, that just looks freaky and uncanny. I feel like I'm watching a horror movie right now. Her eye just does this weird glitch out. I thought it was a smear frame at first, But it really isn't a smear frame. You don't even see multiple eyes. Some errors are so quick that we can barely see them properly, like this next one we noticed in one of the episodes. In the episode, Hotel, Bingo, and Bandit are playing a fun game. And during their play, something very weird can be seen, or should I say it cannot be seen. Because if you look at Bandit while he was spinning on the bed, his tail simply disappears. Where is his tail? It's supposed to be right there. Can you guys imagine Bandit walking around the house without a tail? Talking about Chili, in this scene, she wipes the sweat off her forehead. However, there is a mistake with the sweat. Let's zoom in really quick. And you can see that the sweat actually clips in front of her arm. That's not how sweat works. Does it? It should have been below, under her arm, not in front. That doesn't make any sense. In the episode The Creek, there's a very quick and hard to notice error with one of the fan favorite characters, Mackenzie. When we see Mackenzie coming out of the bushes, we notice that his head is completely black furred, when in reality the fur on his head is not completely black, but he has a small white spot right in the middle of his head. It was only a few frames true, but our watchful eyes caught it. In the episode Pirate, there's an interesting detail that you might not catch at first glance. While Bandit is playing with the girls, swinging in a hammock, and pretending to be a pirate ship, there's a strange moment that stands out. If you slow down the scene and watch it in slow motion, you'll notice something rather strange. As Bandit lets the hammock swing, his two ears briefly merge into one, creating a rather unique image of Bandit. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it moments that only attentive viewers can see. One of the most beloved episodes of Bluey is Barnacus and Bumpy, where Bluey and others try to make a movie for Bingo while she's in the hospital. The film unfolds throughout the episode, and in the end, all the superstars involved in the film do the typical thank you that actors do at the end of a play for their audience, and that's when something very strange happens. Muffin, who participates in the play, is wearing a chef's hat because that was her role in the film. In the final scene, we see that the hat falls slightly over her eyes because it's too big, but if you pause at the right moment, you'll see that one of her eyes is covered by the hat, and the other is above it. Now that's a funny error. Moving on, in the episode Feather Wand, where Bingo is playing with magical powers using a feather that makes things super heavy, and then she does it with Bandit's famous yoga ball. Seriously, look at her having so much fun. Hold on, look again. Her snout moves, but her head turns a bit later, creating this weird and funny animation image at the same time. Hardly anyone noticed this little mistake when they watched this episode for the first time. Another small detail we stumbled upon is in the episode Library. In this episode, Muffin visits her cousins, and they're having a great time playing in a library. Bluey shows Muffin the heart-shaped stamp used to mark people's library cards when they borrow and return books. Interestingly, we noticed that this card with a heart-shaped stamp is placed on top of another piece of pink paper. However, right after that, as Bluey is creating a library card for Muffin, we can see a continuity error. The positions of the pink papers have switched, with the paper bearing the heart stamp now under the other paper without a stamp. In the episode Magic Xylophone, the Healers family are having fun playing a fun game with their hands. We see the family playing with hand-drawn characters. Notice that the characters in Bluey and Bingo's hand are drawn with smiles, meaning their mouths are turned upwards, while Chili has a downward-facing mouth. But as the game progresses, we see that at a certain moment when Bandit also joins in the fun, Bluey's hand-drawn character suddenly has an inverted smile. She might have erased the previous smile and drawn a new one. But that scene wasn't shown to us. So this could just be a tiny mistake. Another animation error we found was in the episode Spy Game. In this episode, Bluey and her friends come together for a fun barbecue at the park. Bluey and Mackenzie are playing spies, trying to gather hair samples to make a special potion. But things get all mixed up, causing a lot of confusion. Suddenly, there's a big fire, and their dinner plans go all wonky. Now, not only is the story full of twists and turns, but even the animation in the episode is a bit confusing. When Bingo and Bandit are supposed to be in the bathroom together, Bandit waiting for Bingo to finish her toilet, something funny happens. Bandit is spotted outside, cooking sausages on the barbecue instead. How did he get there so fast? And then, surprise! Bandit magically appears inside the bathroom with Bingo, helping with the hand washing. Can he teleport now? But this is not the only animation error in the episode. Back in the party, as Bluey and Mackenzie rush to collect more hair for their potion, watch out for a sneaky animation detail. Right after they leave, you can catch Honey and Chloe in a happy pose, but with a quick blink, they suddenly go into a peekaboo stance with no smooth transition. It's a small detail that's easy to miss while watching, but if you pause the video and take a closer look, you'll definitely notice it. Now, this next mistake is related to the famous Bluey Easter egg, the long dog. In the episode Cafe, where Bluey is playing with her new friend, while the two are playing by pretending to be cafe owners. We see Bandit and his friend sitting separately on park benches. If we look closely, we see the famous long dog right below Bandit's bench, behind one of the bench's legs. The mistake is that in the very next scene, when we see everything from a different angle, we see the same Bandit on the same bench with the back leg of the bench also visible, but no sign of the long dog. It disappeared. It seems like the long dog Easter egg has some magical powers. In our previous video, we mentioned a mistake in the episode Takeaway, and now let's go back to that episode again. When Bandit goes into the restaurant to check if the food is almost ready, the girls keep playing outside as if they're in their own restaurant. The mistake is that at a certain point, Bingo eats the spicy food that was left there by Bandit, and when Bandit returns outside, Bingo spits the burning food from her mouth onto poor Bandit's face. Note that when she does this, Bandit turns his face to the side, and we can see that both sides of his face get dirty. Then he wipes his face with his arm, and now his face is completely clean. But how is that possible when between the two sides of his face, there's a snout preventing him from wiping both sides of his head? If you think about it, you'll realize it really doesn't make sense. In our previous video, we mentioned the animation error in the episode Takeaway, where Bluey's face was looking weird. But this time, we've found another animation error in the same episode. This time, it's Bandit who's the victim. As we know, Bandit's belly has yellow fur on it. But here for a split second, the yellow fur on his belly completely disappears. Another error also happened in the same episode. When Bandit, Bluey, and Bingo are waiting outside the restaurant, we can see the restaurant lady through the glass window. But there's an error there. Did you notice it? Through the glass window, it seems like the restaurant lady has a white face. But when she comes out with the food, her face is not white and has a similar color to her ear. Pretty weird, isn't it? In the episode Butterflies, Bluey, Bingo, and Judo are playing a fun game. And after a small issue that happens in the episode, especially between Judo and Bingo, the three make up and resume playing. The mistake is that now the three pups want to be humans, and none of them wants to pretend to be the butterfly, so they wonder who they could hunt. Right at the moment when they hear poor Bandit humming while finishing taking down the laundry, if you pause exactly when Bluey's dad is being totally obliterated by the group of puppies, you'll notice that the character becomes completely twisted and unrecognizable. For instance, notice that his arm goes directly to his cheek, which is very weird. Poor Bandit. He seems to be the victim of everyone, even the animators of the show. In Christmas Swim episode, each member of the Healer family receives a present, and everyone is opening their gift normally. However, when it's Muffin's turn to open her present, something weird happens. Notice that the package is properly wrapped as it should be, with the normal gift wrap folds. But as Muffin tears the paper around the gift, if you look at the side of the box, you'll see the wrapping folds simply vanish from one moment to the next for no reason. This is one of those blink and you miss moments, but we managed to find it. Moving on, in the episode Mum School, we can see Bluey, and as she walks through the living room followed by her mum, Chili, she kicks a yellow balloon. At that moment, two strange things can be seen, which we can consider two quite obvious animation errors. The first error happens at the exact moment when Bluey kicks the yellow balloon, and surprisingly, the balloon moves before Blue even kicks it. Did the balloon anticipate the hit and moved ahead of time, or was one of the animators a bit too hasty? The second error follows right after the first one in the same scene. As she kicks the balloon, Bluey kind of slides onto the living room rug in the best moonwalking style of singer Michael Jackson. Jokes aside, this sliding movement of Bluey looks very odd and unnatural. In the episode Pass the Parcel, we noticed the weirdest error yet. Lucky's dad is hosting the game of Pass the Parcel, but he has changed the rule. And looking at the parents' reaction, it's safe to say that they aren't pleased with it. But wait, there's a mistake here. If we zoom on to Jasper G's mum, we can notice her hand looks a bit weird. She literally has two arms at one side. Seems like the animators misplaced her hand. This next animation error is kinda similar to the one that we saw in the episode Horsey Ride, where Bandit's face was looking a bit weird, but this time it has to do with Bluey. In the episode Dirt, Bluey and Bingo are having a lot of fun playing in a massive pile of mud. And during the scene where Judo goes to her home because she can't play in the mud, we can notice Bandit watering the giant pile of mud. And while doing so, he sprays some of the water onto Bingo and Bluey's face. And there was an error right there. You didn't notice it? Don't worry, we will slow down the scene for you. Right at the moment the water lands on Bluey's face, we can notice the fur on her face completely disappeared. She looks identical to how Bandit looks in the Horsey Ride episode. Like father, like daughter. No one knew this error till now because it happened so fast. The error was there for a microsecond, but our watchful eyes managed to catch it. Moving on, in the episode Fruit Bat, we see a really interesting error. In one of the scenes where Bandit is sleeping on the living room floor, we can see Chili beside him with her hockey stick. And we all know Chili loves playing field hockey. In the scene, she's taping her hockey stick, and we can see she already made a few rounds with it. But when Bluey enters the scene, the yellow tape around the hockey stick disappears as if Chili never wrapped it, even though she just did it. It happens from one frame to another. Maybe the animators forgot that the stick was already wrapped. Now, for this next animation error, we have to go through multiple episodes of Bluey. Let's begin from the very first episode of Season 1, Magic Xylophone. In this episode, when Bluey and Bingo are running through their room, we can notice a photo frame in the nightstand. Let's look at the photo closely. In it, we can notice that Bluey has one eye closed and her tongue out, and Bingo has her mouth closed. But in the episode Veranda Santa, which is 52nd of first season, we can also see the same photo frame in the nightstand. But the mistake is that the photo is slightly different than before. Earlier, Bluey had one eye closed, her tongue out, and Bingo had her mouth closed. But in this photo, Bluey's tongue is not out, and also Bingo's mouth is open. But that's not all. In the episode Bedroom, which is 2nd of 3rd season, the photo has again changed slightly. This time, Bluey has both of her eyes open, unlike before, where she had only one of her eyes open. Like here, we can see these three pictures are different than each other. Maybe animators forgot what the original photo looked like. Going back to the Fruit Bat episode, we noticed a really cool mistake. In the scene, where Bandit is drying Bluey's head, the bathroom door is open, and Bingo is inside. But that's not the mistake. Look at the window. We can see that, at least through it, it's still daytime, which would be normal if the kids weren't already getting ready for bed, as it's already nighttime, as seen at the beginning of the episode. Plus, when they head to the bedroom, the window there shows it's already dark. Maybe the healer house has different time zones in different rooms. In the episode Magic Xylophone, Bluey, Bingo, and Bandit are playing a game of pretend where Bluey and Bingo have a magic xylophone that can freeze Bandit in space and time. And in one scene, Bluey and Bingo freeze Bandit in the garden and make him hold many toys and plushies. Moments later, when the sisters unfreeze Bandit, he tosses everything on the ground. But the mistake is, moments later, Bluey and Bandit go back to the garden, but there are no toys and plushies there. Everything has disappeared. Knowing Bluey and Bingo, I doubt they cleared it up. Even if they did, they need flash speed to clean it up so fast. Now this next error is really confusing. In the episode Mums and Dads, when Indy and Rusty pretend to be parents, they struggle to agree on who should get a job. Later, Indy finds it hard to get a babysitter, and Bluey pretends Rusty is her baby. And I have to say, I felt sorry for Rusty when Bluey forced him to wear kids' clothes and pretend to be a baby. But that's not the mistake here. In the scene where Bluey is literally chasing Rusty with a baby stroller to get him back to playing, they pass by two kids on a swing. But these kids don't attend this school because they're Bingo's classmates. And we all know Bingo and Bluey go to different schools. Seems like even animators got confused about the characters, but I don't blame them. There are so many characters in Bluey that it can be hard to keep track of everyone. In the episode Spy Games, where the kids pretend to be secret agents with a mission to collect very tricky items, we find a very quick animation error. In one of the scenes, Bandit is making barbecue with other parents around him. But suddenly, Bandit loses control of the barbecue, and the fire gets too big. And at this exact moment, if we look at Chili, we'll notice her face is almost all brown for a scene. Maybe Chili got so scared that even her face changed colors. Now this next animation error is up for a debate. In the episode Keepy Uppy, we notice something very interesting. In the scene where Bluey wakes up and is getting out of her bed, we notice that something is missing in that bed. Do you know what I am talking about? Well, I am talking about the pillow. There's literally no pillow on the bed. We've seen Bluey's bed before, and there's always a pillow there. There are only two explanations for this. First, Chili forgot to put pillow on Bluey's bed. And second, the animators simply forgot to draw the pillow, which I think is the actual reason. Now let's talk about the mistake in one of the most loved Bluey episodes. And I am indeed talking about the camping episode. In one of the scenes where Bluey and her family are gathered with Uncle Stripe's family by a campfire roasting marshmallow, we noticed a very funny error. When Stripe closes his eyes, we can see that one of his eyes closes in the opposite direction as if it were upside down. The one on the outside is closed normally. The one on the inside of the scene is like it's inverted, and we literally saw all of this in the blink of an eye. We talked about the errors we found in the episode Spy Game, but we missed the funniest error in that episode. And thanks to our viewer for helping us notice the error. So right when the barbecue is on fire, Mackenzie's dad walks right through it. Let's slow it down a bit. Right here, we can see Mackenzie's dad walks right through the fire. It seems like even the animators panicked after seeing the barbecue catch fire. Moving on, in the episode Muffin Cone, Trixie and Muffin are going to Bluey's house, and in the scene where Trixie is driving, we spotted a really quick animation error. Right at this moment, when Trixie is talking with Muffin, the dark spot on her face disappears for a split second. This was a really hard to notice error, but our sharp eye managed to catch it. And I think we deserve a like for this effort. In the episode Trampoline, Bluey and Bingo are having fun playing on a trampoline with Bandit. And in one of the scenes, where Bluey and Bingo are running on the trampoline, a small error occurs. Right at the moment when Bluey dives in the trampoline, the spot that is on her back appears on her belly. Maybe the spot also bounced from back to front. Now for this next one, I'm not really sure if this is an error or not, and it happens in the episode Ghost Basket. Here, the healers are playing a game of pretend where Bandit is pretending to be an estate agent selling the granny's house to Mum, but Janet and Rita do not want to move out. So, they plan to scare out Chili by pretending to be a ghost. During one of the scenes, where Bandit is trying to prevent Chili from knowing that there's a ghost in the house, he makes an expression. And right under his eye, we can notice some sort of line. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be an error, or if it is used knowingly to make the expression. Honestly, I think it's an error, because even without this thing, Bandit's expression looks the same. Here we have edited out the line, and we can notice that the expression is similar to before. So, what do you think about this one? Let me know in the comments. Now this next error is small one, and by small we mean really small. And it has to do with this ladybug. Right here, if we zoom onto the ladybug, we can notice it has 3 spots on its back. But when we get the zoom in view, it has now 4 spots. Now we have to be honest here. It took us ages to find this error. And if you guys want us to find more error like this one, like the video. Now this next error is really funny. In the episode Favorite Thing, let's look at Bingo's plate for a moment. As we can see, there are 4 cherry tomatoes on Bingo's plate. And while trying to grab it with the fork, one falls down the table. And the other one flies and splashes on Bandit's head. So now there are only 2 remaining, right? But the mistake is, moments later when we see the plate from different angle, we can notice that there are still 4 tomatoes in it. Now this is what we call tomato multiplication magic. Now this next error is the funniest one ever. In the episode Pirate, when Bandit is playing with Bluey and Bingo, swinging in a hammock and pretending to be a pirate ship. If you slow down the scene and watch it in slow motion, you'll notice that when Bandit lets the hammock swing, something very strange happens. Bandit's 2 ears merge into one for a brief moment, creating a rather strange face. Bandit looks more like a unicorn than a dog,